Hello guys, my name is Balakrishna Srivastava and welcome to CodeWithBK. So in this video, we solve competency-based practice questions for ISC Class 12 Computer Science students who will be appearing for the boards paper in 2025. So before we begin, it is a request to please subscribe to my channel. And questions 1 to 20 have already solved in a separate video. So the link for that video you can find in the description of this video. And I'll try to solve as many as questions possible in this video. If there are any questions left, they'll be solved in a separate video. Okay, so question 21. So recursion utilizes more memory as compared to iteration is true. So if you remember, I explained you about the call stack that has activation records, okay, stacked upon one another. So it is utilizing more memory because each activation record is keeping a track of all the values. Okay, each activation record is basically a call, tracks all the values for a call to that procedure, and procedure is a technical name of a function. So basically tracking all the values for a function call, and these activation records are stacked as and when we have more recursive calls. Okay, absence of base case leads to infinite recursion. True, because the recursion does not stop. Base case is what stops the recursion. Okay, so assertion is true, reasoning is true, but it is not the correct explanation. So this is going to be part B. Okay, so dual is very changed, plus to dot, dot to plus, 1 to 0 and 0 to 1. So we will get A dot B, okay, complement remains the same, plus, and you get 0. So this is A dot B bar, which is not equal to 0, so this is false. In Boolean algebra, complement of an OR operation is equal to the AND operation in complement. This is true. This is basically De Morgan laws. That is saying complement of an OR operation, that is A plus B whole bar, is equal to AND operation of complement of individual variables, which is equal to A bar dot B bar. Okay. So assertion is false, reasoning is true. Okay. Moving on to table for an OR gate shows output is high only if odd number of inputs are high. This is true. XOR gate performs addition modulo 2 produces output. This is true. And reasoning is the correct explanation for the assertion through part A. Moving on, equivalent expression is this is true. Equivalent statement always gives the final result, contingency is true. So I guess I'll have to upload a separate video to explain propositional logic, because this might take a couple of more minutes. So assertion is true, reasoning is true, and it is the correct explanation. This is the answer. But I'll try to add a video where I explain this properly. Okay. Then I have this. So this is quick. Counter positive. For example, if P implies Q. Okay. So counter positive for if P then Q is, if not Q then not P, which is going to be Q bar implies P bar. Okay. So P implies Q's counter positive is Q bar implies P bar. So make this bar move on the other side, it becomes P. Make this bar move on the other side, it becomes Q bar. So this is correct. Okay. Counter positive is the condition statement obtained after integer. No, this is wrong, because this is antecedent, this is consequent. So if you interchange them, it becomes Q implies P, which is not the counter positive. Okay, so this is false. Assertion is true, reasoning is false. Okay, next question. Okay, so give this a reading. So in this question, the error is the call to superclass constructor is not the first line in the subclass constructor, and this is a rule that call to superclass constructor has to be the first line in the subclass constructor. What do I mean by this is, for example, if I have a class person, okay, and it has a say string name. Okay, I have a class student that extends person. Okay, it has a string major. Okay, I say I want to generate a constructor for the student class, so I source generate constructor from superclass, press generate, and you see by default this call to superclass constructor is added. Okay, this super is basically calling the constructor that is available in the superclass. Superclass does not have any constructor defined, so Java provides it with a default constructor, and this is a call to default constructor because there are no arguments passed. Okay, if I take say string m here and I set major to m, this is not okay because super is not the first line. So this has to be the first line. Okay, first thing that you have to do is call superclass constructor. If I comment this out, okay, this is still okay because by default a super is being called, which is called in the default constructor. Okay, so if I remove this, this is still fine. Okay, because even if there is no call to super, it is there, we just cannot see it. Okay, what do I mean by this is, if I add a person, okay, a constructor with a string n that sets name to n, Now this will be an error because by default this was happening, okay, when I have no call to superclass constructor. This is now not possible because default constructor is now not available. Okay, there is no default constructor, so you have to call the superclass constructor and pass a string. So you have to say string n is super and you pass n, okay, and has to be the first line. If this is not the first line, then there is a problem. Okay, all right. So okay, if you add a default constructor in this class, okay, this is still fine because this is calling this constructor. If you remove this, now this is calling this constructor. So if you remove this at all, may comment this out, the default call, even if you're not adding a call to super, is still there. This is still there, which is calling this, which will be a problem if you remove this. That's how you get a red mark now. Okay, do you get my point? So if there is no call to super in the subclass constructor, there is a call to super default constructor. It is there and it is going to be valid if the superclass has a default constructor. If the superclass does not have a default constructor, okay, the default call to super will be invalid now and you'll have to provide a separate call. Okay, you say super. Okay, makes sense? Moving on. So I'm trying to cover as many as related concepts possible. So if they ask you a related question, you should be able to answer. Okay. What will happen if the data members of the superclass are made private instead of protected? So if data members of superclass are made protected, they won't be directly accessible in the subclass. Okay. What do I mean by this is if I make this protected. Okay. Okay. Right now they are protected and I have a function public void show. Okay, I can directly access this data member name which is protected because it is protected. So if I print say name, okay, I am okay with this. This is fine. If I make this private, this is not accessible directly in the subclass. Okay, this gives me a red mark. Cannot access this. Okay, this is what you have to do. Okay, and in this, if in reference to this code, if these are made private, no error will happen because this class car is not using color or registration data members directly in the code anywhere. Okay, but I guess this is an independent question. This is not related to this question. Okay, so all you can say is if the superclass data members are made private, they are not directly accessible in the subclass. So this is done. What will happen if void show in subclass car is given access specifier private? That is, if this is made private, there will be an error because there is a function with the same signature in the superclass which is public and you're making it private, and this is not allowed because reducing the visibility of the function that you're overriding is not allowed. What do I mean by this is if I have a public void show, okay, prints the name, okay, and if I have a public void show here as well, that I'll say prints the major now. Okay, I make this, remove this private, not used anymore, prints the major. Okay, two functions with the exactly same signature. This is public and this is public. Okay, you cannot make this private because you are reducing the visibility of this show function in the subclass. That is not allowed. You can increase the visibility, you cannot reduce the visibility. So for public, you cannot make it private if the function signature is exactly the same. If you change the function signature, that's okay. This is show with no arguments, this is show with an integer, and this is okay. You can make this private. This yellow line is because this is not being used, but this is okay. Okay, but if you keep the signature exactly the same as that of the function in the superclass, you cannot reduce the visibility. You can obviously increase the visibility, that is if this is private and this obviously this private is okay. You make this protected, this is okay because you are increasing the visibility, no red marks. You make this public, still okay because you are increasing the visibility. If this is protected, you make this public, still okay because you are increasing the visibility. This is public, this is protected, still okay because you are not changing the visibility. If you make this private now, from protected you are changing visibility, reducing visibility, so this is not okay. Alright, again if you change the signature, this is okay. Alright, okay. Going back, so this will create an error. All methods declared in an interface are abstract. Where will the body of these abstract methods be defined? The body of these abstract methods are defined in the class that implements. The keyword implements is really important, okay, because in Java interfaces, so interfaces are implemented and classes are extended. Okay, so you have to write the body of these abstract methods will be defined in the class that implements that interface. Okay, what do I mean by this is, for example, if we have this interface, I create a class temp, okay, temp that implements A. So this has to implement these methods. Okay, I can also choose not to implement this method by making this class that implements this interface as abstract. Okay, because there is an abstract function here. This function will be carried on to this class temp, which also has the same abstract function. Now the class that extends this temp class will have to define this abstract function, which is this. Okay, right? And abstract classes cannot be instantiated. You cannot create an object of an abstract class, and the opposite of abstract class is something that you call a concrete class or a non-abstract class. Concrete is more commonly used. Abstract functions, opposite of abstract functions is non-abstract functions. Okay, so if I try to create an object of this temp, it will not be allowed. That is, if I do temp t1 equal to new temp, this is not allowed. Cannot instantiate a type of abstract class. Okay, if I make this temp child new temp child, this is okay. Okay, because this is not an abstract class. I can also do the type is temp, but I am creating a temp child. Okay, this is also okay. Okay, this is further into object-oriented programming. If you want videos, let me know. Okay, right? Okay, extra information. We cannot have functions defined with a body in the interfaces. Okay, you cannot say sys out there. Okay, not allowed. In interfaces, methods with a body are not allowed. They are allowed only if they are private, and this is since Java version 9. Okay, this is not important. Okay, but for you remember private functions are allowed in private functions with the body are allowed in interfaces. Okay, otherwise they are not. Okay, this is going to give you a red line, so you have to make this abstract. Okay, private functions allowed in interfaces. Okay, and you can also say if there is any other function which is not private, okay, void var, okay, you say sys out int k equal to 10. This is not allowed. Okay, cannot have non-abstract functions which are not private. Okay, in a class which is abstract, you can have both abstract and non-abstract functions. Okay, so you can say void, say baz, and this is okay. All right, you can also make this abstract. Okay, this is also okay because this class is already abstract. Okay, a presence of an abstract function makes a class abstract. Okay, all right. Obviously, you cannot do this. You cannot both say abstract and add a body. That's not allowed. Okay. Okay, I guess I'm not going too deep into this, but I'm trying to cover as many as concepts possible. Okay, moving on. So this is okay. I'm giving you answer for this. So this is what we call a UML diagram. Okay. So there are two interfaces given, and this is basically to depict the classes that you're going to implement and the structure that the hierarchy they're going to follow. So in this case, this is very simple. You don't have to go too much into these what arrows means. You just understand that two interfaces, and the child basically implements both the interfaces. So the examiner is, so the question is basically just trying to check if you know how to implement two interfaces, which is done here. Okay, so if I have class, say father, oh, interface father, sorry, interface father, okay, and interface mother. Okay, so you simply write this is going to be an answer. Class child extends, sorry, implements father, interface 1, okay, and interface 2, and you can implement further interfaces that you want. Okay, you can also implement, say, interface God. Now I'm getting a little crazy with this, so you can say God as well. Okay, can do multiple interfaces, but your answer is going to be this one. Okay, you write this part. Okay, and the order does not matter. You can put mother first and then father. Does not really make a difference at all. Okay, all right. In Java, multiple interfaces can be implemented, but multiple inheritance tens is not allowed in Java. Java does not provide a feature for that. What do I mean by this is if I have class A, sorry, I don't say class A, so I say a C1, okay, I'll say class C2, C2, okay. I have two classes, but I cannot have a class that extends both of them. I cannot say C3 extends C1 and C2. This is not allowed. You say you get an error here. This is not allowed. Multiple inheritance is not allowed. Implementing multiple interfaces together is the indirect way to achieve multiple inheritance in Java. Okay, we're not going too deep into it. In C++, multiple inheritance is allowed. Okay, so this is done. So given code snippet, which is the orange concept. So this is going to be polymorphism we already given. So there are four concepts, and this is polymorphism because same function. Okay, function name is the same, but arguments, number and type of arguments are different. Takes one integer, takes two integer. Okay, and there are four core concepts of concrete features of object-oriented programming: abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. You should remember this. These were taught to me on my first day of my 9th standard in my Java class, and I still remember that image of that notebook that has those 4 points written in black ink on a very sad paper. I still remember. I still might have the notes, right? Okay. Okay, in this part you have to fill the missing parts, and this is obviously it's going to be string with uppercase S string type, and you can leave this blank. Okay, problem is you have to fill the missing parts of the code, but you can leave this blank and this is going to be totally fine. What do I mean by this is if I have string str, okay, 15.45, right, 15.45, right, and I say double d within parentheses, I say double dot parse double and str. You see this is totally okay. No issue. So you don't have to fill anything which is asking you to fill a blank here. Okay, nothing is allowed. Nothing is needed here. If you simply print D, you will get the right output. Okay, commenting this out because this is gonna give me error. Okay, D is 15.45. In the answer key, they say something like this. Okay, and I totally don't agree with this. Is double D equal to new double, okay, double dot parse double this. Okay, because they are changing the type of the variable D. So it was primitive, they make it non-primitive, they make it a wrapper type. Okay, so in questions like these, okay, for example, you don't have to fill the code, and it is going to work fine. So you can say you don't have to fill anything and it's still going to work fine, right? In questions like these, in situations like these, you should write the best answer possible that is going to give you the correct output or the correct code or whatever the question is asking to your best possible ability. Okay, and you will get the marks, don't worry about that. Okay, so this is done. Then we have how many data bytes are passed. So this is going to be 4 plus 8 plus 2, so this is going to be 14 bytes. Okay, since a byte has okay, in this question it says why is it maximum value 127 if it can represent 256 different numbers, because a byte is made up of one byte can represent minus 128 to 127, and this entire range is made up of 256 different numbers. 1 to 127 is 127, minus 1 to minus 127 is another 127, so 254 numbers, and then minus 128 to 55 numbers, and then 0 to 56 numbers. Okay, all right. So if you go back to the code and you say, oh, let me just comment this out. Okay, if you say byte b1 is say 127 is the maximum value, this is okay. If you try to make it 128, this is not going to be okay, because 128 going directly into b1 is not allowed, because by default integer constants in Java are int type. So you're trying to place an int. This constant is treated, any integer constant is treated as int by default. You're trying to place int 4 bytes into a byte, which is 1 byte. Always think this situation in terms of boxes. Int is 4 bytes larger box, byte is smaller, 1 byte smaller box. Cannot put a large box inside a small box. If it was the other way around, trying to put a byte inside a int, small box can be put inside a bigger box. That is, if I say int I1 is b1 is okay. Okay, all right, and you can fix this by doing either changing the range. Okay, so this is okay. You're putting a byte inside an integer, that's fine. Okay, if you want to get the byte, you do explicit typecasting. Okay, and you can then add whatever value you want. It just takes the byte. Okay, then we have, okay, so this is, the questions are very interesting in this paper, and they are very different from what they are usually asked, and I actually like this because you have to know each nook and corner of detail of Java programming and the syntax that it involves. Okay, so it says that you have a float price 17.99 and this is wrong. I mean, this is syntactically incorrect and they are right. You see, it might seem right, this is not right. Okay, because by default floating point values, so just as integer constants are by default int type, floating point values, that is values with decimal point, floating point constants are double type. Okay, so by default this is treated as a double which you're trying to float inside a float, not possible. Double 8 bytes, float 4 bytes, cannot put a large box inside a smaller box. Okay, so to fix this, okay, you can do, you tell the compiler treat this as a float, append lowercase f or uppercase f, either will work. Okay, and this is one solution. You have to tell it two ways. One way is this. Okay, then again you do the same thing. Okay, you get another. The other way is to change the type of the price, which is double now, which is okay. Okay, because you're putting a double constant in a double variable, which is okay. Or you can also do, okay, you can say give me the float of the 17.9 and it will be all the same. Okay, so I told you a third method as well. You can pick any two. Okay, in this question you have to think on what type of values these are. So population of a country has to be an integer type. Okay, and I'm saying this because a population is a count. It cannot be, you cannot count me half 2.75 humans or okay 4.2 people. You cannot do that. It is going to be an integer value. So, and it is going to be a large value. So large integer values are stored in long types. Okay, then interest rate in a bank account has to be a double and not a float, because every decimal point is going to make a huge difference when it comes to money. So suppose if I have $1 million, right, and I am supposed to get 3.5, but somebody says 3.49. Okay, I am losing money, right? Okay, I don't want that. Okay, and you would argue, where do we use float then? So float is used in places where decimal point, floating point values are calculated, and they're not very, the precision is not important. For example, grading. Okay, 3.5 grade, 3.51 grade is the same thing. Okay, but not in terms of interest rate or where this decimal point values is important. Okay, so in this question there are 3 print statements. There is no print ln or changing line anywhere. So whatever answers you write, you have to be on the same line, same single line. If you change a line, then the answer goes wrong. Okay, so you have an array, you have 3 characters, you say first, and these are all functions, valid functions of the character class, all static functions of the character. This is the character wrapper class, all valid static functions. So is digit set to, this is set to, this is set to, is digit is true, so you print true with a space. Don't do any underline or something, just leave some space just to indicate that you understand that this is space added after printing the first output. Okay, then is white space set of 0 false. So since you added a space, you leave some space and you say false, and there is a space after that, so you, before you type the next output, write the next output, you leave another space. Letter or is digit s1, which is true, so you say true false. Okay, leave some space, all in the same. Okay, spell them correctly. I'm doing this because this PDF is stupid, man. This digital pen is, you see, if I make A, it makes it a star. Okay, that's the problem. Okay. While using wrapper classes, we do not need any import package true. This is because wrapper classes are contained in the package java.lang, which is imported by default when you're writing a Java code. You don't have to write a separate import statement to import java.lang. What do I mean by this is, okay, if I want to say integer i1 is say 100, okay, i2 I'll say i1 is already used. Okay, so this I don't have to import any packages for using integers. You see, it's a part of java.lang.integer, so it is in Java. There is no import statement on top. Okay, so you see java.lang.integer, okay, and float. Okay, all right. Okay, then in this case, this is the question basically about typecasting. So this has to be, and it has to write int here. So explicit typecasting is the technique used. What do I mean by this is if I have three values, double m1 is say 3.4, m2 is say 3.5, m3 is say 4.6. Okay, and you're saying int avg is m1 plus m2 plus m3 by 3. Okay, if you don't typecast this, you cannot put a double value inside an int value, int type. Okay, double 8 bytes into 4 bytes, double larger box in smaller box. Cannot put a larger box inside a smaller box. Okay, so we explicitly typecast this. So this has to be, technique is explicit typecasting. You have to use the word explicit here. Implicit is going to be this one. Implicit typecasting, where the compiler is able to understand, okay, you're putting a byte inside an int, which is okay. Okay, you don't have to tell me that give me int of this b1. This is not needed. Okay, you do this, this is going to be fine. Okay, this is fine. Okay, one more question before we stop this video. Okay, in this you have to calculate the time complexity, and they are asking questions on time complexity, so I'll try to add a video on time complexity before your exams. Okay, so you have to assume that the code compiles successfully, and this statement is important because they are using x, which is not defined here, but they say you have to assume the code compiles correctly, so x is defined somewhere. Okay, and same goes for y. So this loop runs from 0 to x times, and the value of x is not changed anywhere in the loops. So this runs x times. So the complexity for the first for loop is going to be O x. Similarly, for the second case, the loop runs from 0 to less than y. Okay, runs y times. So the complexity of the second loop is going to be O y, and the value of y is not changing anywhere. So y times. You have to tell the complexity of the entire snippet. Okay, the entire snippet. So it is going to be O x plus y. Okay, all right. So these are the questions for this video, and the remaining questions I'm going to solve in a separate video. If you have any doubts, there's a part you don't understand, please let me know in the comments. I always try to answer all your comments. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.